isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
And welcome to a brand new episode of Crush This Live. I am the monster truck conductor, Brad Shaw, and with me is this guy. I'll do it to you. Ugh! Wrong way, numbnuts. How's everything going there in Champaign, Illinois there, Mr. Cheech?
Oh, pretty good. Just got my fire alarms checked out, and the apartment that I'm in had a little bit of a cigarette stench to it. I don't smoke, just letting people know. But they like carpet steamed and stuff like that. So outside of that, pretty good. We're getting ready for Bloomsburg here in a couple weeks, and I'm excited about that. We're gonna get everything going. But how about you there, Brad?
Everything is good. Nice weather here up in Grand Prairie, Alberta, Canada. Just working away as usual. My crew shirt should be here any day. I'm rocking the old school one, so the OG design. Thanks to 6B Apparel. Me. Also, thanks to High Octane Coffee, J Concepts, also JB Scale Graphics. Take a look at Mikey Vaughters Jr.'s new YouTube episode. He gives a shout out. They did the Overkill Evolution. They also did Joey Sylvester's Bad Habit, and also officially licensed Bigfoot. Also, Marty Garza's Monster Truck Technology book. Go check that out. And Back Channel Productions. We're back to full swing on the Back Channel Productions 4-wheel drive jamboree area, and just confirmed just then. There was some different shuffles on the schedule here. Zane and his Stinger and Pretty Wicked Truck parted ways, and to fill in the gap, they brought in John Gordon and Bad Company and the Fast Metal Truck. The cool thing is one of our guests, Cody Saucier, is driving Fast Metal. Yes.
So he's going to be doing the 4-wheel drive jamborees. That's pretty cool. And I guess I'll continue on and introing this other guy. He's going to be doing more. He was originally scheduled to do Lima. Well, now he's going to be doing Lima in Indianapolis for the 4-wheel drive jamborees, which is pretty awesome. And he just, they just got done shooting the Flight TV episode, which is coming out June 29th, this Monday. For $20, that's your first episode, or $44 for all 3 episodes. You can check out what he did and how he drove the legendary truck that Dan Patrick owns. He's a part of Patrick Enterprises. It's Rick Steffens and Samson. How you doing today, sir?
But first, we're going to quickly play the Outlaw ad.
Yeah, we can do that later on.
Okay, let's add Rick. There he is.
What's up, guys?
Bradwick. We can do it after the show.
Hey, there we go.
All right,
yeah, don't worry about that video.
All right. Yeah,
you had this whole plan figured out. You didn't listen to anything that came out of your mouth.
No.
No.
I guess my role as the producer just goes out the window.
Yeah, it's all right.
How's everything going down there in Ohio? You guys had a busy weekend doing the Outlaw Drags. I believe it was last weekend. How did everything go with that? And without spoiling anything, how did you guys fare out there?
It was a lot of fun. Joey put on a really, really cool track for everybody. It was really technical. You had to really drive the truck. It wasn't just a kind of just hold the pedal to the floor and see what happens type of track. I mean, you had to play with the track, and you learned every pass as far as racing. You get to see some really cool side-by-side drag racing that you probably haven't seen before. Got little snippets and stuff like that out there on Instagram, Facebook, all over the place. But yeah, it's definitely something you want to see. Freestyle track, same thing. He didn't put a track out there to try and break our trucks. He didn't put a track out there to try and hurt us drivers. He put out a really technical track, a fun track, And it was something that you could hit pretty much wide open and you weren't going to hurt yourself. And it was nice. It was refreshing to just be able to drive.
I was about to say, how was it to get back behind the wheel after this certain break that we had?
Yeah.
Was it a little bit of a little bit rust, or did you get in the truck beforehand, or you
No,
just went
never.
in and said,
I've never been one of those guys that's ever really cared about practicing. I up until recently, when I started hitting iron walls in the wrong direction, I never really walked the track before as far as freestyle. So I learned my lesson about that last summer. But no, I just sat in the truck again. We finished up the Hot Wheels Live stuff overseas and shoved her in a container and shipped her back. And luckily, it got back to the port about a week before they closed the ports on us. Checked the nuts and bolts and ran the valves and took her out there. So it was a good time. It was nice to do some actual legit racing again.
So how did that the Hot Wheels tour come about? Because in the States, they had Derek Anson's team, the Bigfoot team, the Holman team, and then overseas they had I think they had Craig Christensen,
Yep.
You guys, some of the Bigfoot trucks. How did that all come about?
Basically, it was just Tim and Ken. They wanted to put a European schedule together, and Eric Cole and all the partners there at Raycom Legacy and Ignite Partners. They wanted to expand their brand, and Europe's crazy as far as monster trucks. They're not as saturated as we are. So it's just the perfect platform as far as taking their package over there. But obviously they were still continuing to run their current package in the States. So they put 6 more trucks together and asked us to thankfully be a part of it. Had a blast over there. Nice, simple shows, a lot of fun. Concrete kicked my butt my first week trying to drive on it. That was, hats off to all the amazing concrete freestylers out there, because, I always thought that it wasn't that hard. I was wrong. It's a totally different animal. But got it figured out after that and started winning some rounds and was able to take that championship and then kind of come back out on a high point there. And me and Darren Schnell were having a good time. Craig bought a truck that was 22 feet wide over there, and apparently he was trying to turn around concrete and it wasn't working out so well for him. So
oh my. So over there in Europe and stuff like that, how were the fans compared to, you said the Americans and Canadian fans, they're used to seeing this, but over there in Europe they're not so much. So how was their reaction compared to the States or
I feel like it's a lot more animated. I feel like and we're so blessed in the States up until 3 months ago that there was 15 to 20 events going on a weekend, and for them it's something that comes around once every 5 years, without having to travel a ridiculous amount of time. So the individual fan reaction, I feel like it was a lot more kind of heartfelt, like it was the family atmosphere. It was the mom, the dad, the 2 kids, and they had their posters, their shirts, or their pennants, whatever. And it felt like it was a lot more valuable experience to them, than it is to us. And it's not that we don't love our monster trucks. Don't get me wrong. Obviously we do, but I just feel like their enthusiasm and their attention to the details, like where we kind of like gray out in certain aspects of the show, like, well, we've seen that before at this guy's show. Well, they never had that moment. So they were just locked in the show the whole time.
So let's take it back. If a lot of people don't know you and your career, how did you get into this wild, crazy world that we call monster trucks?
So fortunate enough, I had some great parents. They were lucky to just drag me around to every monster truck show I could ever go to. And it actually started through horses. So my parents were good friends with Pat and Jack Bush, and their son, Tim Bush, which, obviously, as you guys probably know, was a co-owner of Excalibur, has produced hundreds of shows over the years, excavating business, just an all-around great guy. Well, that guy, for some reason, saw that I had some kind of mechanical ability or a want to be in this sport, and he pretty much just shadowed me. And I spent weekends and holidays and my summers and all that just at his shop wrenching on trucks. And so Bruce and Jamie Haney, they always, when they bought Excalibur from Tim and turned into Bad News Travels Fast. They always said they bought a family when they bought the truck, and that was my mom and my dad and I. And so they would come back up to Michigan for shows where I lived, and I would pal around with them in the summer times. And then about my first legitimate summer for crewing was with John Zimmer and Carl Van Horn when they were still driving T-Max and Sudden Impact. I think that was the summer of 07. Of course, I had those two in a trailer independently, so that was interesting. You know, young kids still in high school trying to keep up with those two guys driving. But we got through it, and great times, great memories there. Fast forward from that, got a scholarship through Caterpillar, Think Big program. Took me out of the sport for, I think, right at 3 years. Then I realized it just really wasn't what I wanted to do. So I called CBH back up and I said, hey man, you looking for a crew guy, crew chief, you know, got to sweep the floors, anything, need to get back into some monster trucks. He said, yeah, actually I'm looking for a crew chief. So I think it was like a 5-day process from there to my application filled out. And I was in Texas working for Caterpillar because I went from living in Michigan, worked in California, then moved to Texas with my buddy out of college, then ended up in North Carolina crewing for CBH. Was there for 2.5 years being CBH's crew chief. Great times again. Meeting all those guys, living with Ryan, Cody, Cole. You know, those guys are like my brothers. And that's pretty much where my foothold back in the industry and where my name kind of got thrown around a lot more came from. I guess just giving you the whole lineage. That's where I met my wife, and they were on vacation in the Outer Banks. And luckily enough, I had a fun Bronco, and they got Cody and everybody else got invited to hang out with the Patrick family on the beach. And lucky enough for me, apparently I was a cool enough guy that Allison wanted to see again. So we started chatting up, and just kind of history from there. So, and then Dan offered me a job. Not really sure he still likes that decision at this point, but but no, Dan's been great. He offered me a job, moved up here. Giant change when I went from being a crew chief for Carl. We took up home a lot of wins. I built a really good truck between me and the team there at North Carolina. Those guys, they know how to put a truck together. You know, when you run the Feld camp, like their trucks are built for what they're doing. They're built to tumble across the floor 10 times and put them back on their lid and do it again. And so CVH and I and the whole team there, David Stansel, Andrew Thomas, we had a really great first quarter. And so I went from that, you know, being a pretty accomplished crew chief with CVH to walking into Dan Patrick's door, and basically everything I knew about monster trucks went out the window. It's just the numbers and the technical aspects, and you know, the guy's pretty much built this. He standardized the industry as far as the parts and the pieces that we use. And there's a lot of guys today that don't even know that the reason why this is that length is because of him. But it was just a whole new technical side of the truck. You know, when you work at the company, when you go to put a truck together, all the hoses come in a box and they're cut for you. And then you got the wiring schematic and you have everything. And so you're assembling a truck. Well, here it comes in as about 400 feet of tubing. It comes in about 900 laser parts. And it comes in as 15 different phone calls to all the vendors and getting all that stuff happening. And so just that progression of where I was in the industry to where I'm at now, I have a totally different respect for your independent guys who do have all those contacts that put all that stuff together, you know, and they're not just assembling their trucks, they're building their trucks, you know. When you want to find something better, like you might spend hours on the phone, on the internet, trying to find that next better piece to make yourself more of a competitor, I guess. But
now,
I think I answered about.
Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry about that. I thought you were done.
No, you're good. I think I answered about 9 more questions than I was asked. So.
Thank you very much. Our show's over with. Good night.
We're good. See you guys.
No, the thing is, I completely agree with you, because when I was with Feld also, I was like under BJ Johnson's wing. So
Yeah.
I helped, BJ and Lindsay out with Gas Monkey and all the trucks there. And like you said, all we basically did back then was, well, especially in the Florida shop, was, call, put parts together. If a truck's broke, okay, we got the
Yep.
parts here, put together. If a motor blows up, we really can't touch it unless we get, call someone, and someone needs to call Richard, and Richard's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's do that.
Yep.
Now, fast forward, I'm with the Hall brothers, and now, okay, a motor's blown up. Tim's like, get the motor out. Let's disassemble it. Let's find the problem. We'll send that out. He calls Brad Anderson. Brad Anderson puts it together. And us as a team put a Hemi back together and puts the motor back in. And this during the time gap, we put together 3 motors already. And I mean, it's just so much information going on. And then Mark's, welding and stuff like that. So I completely understand what you're saying, because it's a whole different page. Because when I was part of the, I got a huge reality check about, independent life when I was with Jerry and Aaron and the Dirt Crew, and I learned that, it was, I wasn't a really good fit there, but it is what it is. Okay, but I learned. And then I went to, when I was with, I'm still with Mark and Tim, they just put a whole different aspect in it. And it's basically like, okay, we have a fitting, okay, what's wrong with that part? Not just take it apart and just, and then go ahead and, now I'm thinking to myself saying, oh, okay, well, all those front steer pumps that we had to change in Feld, all we had to do was take it apart and put a new O-ring and put it back together, instead of just
throwing it in the trash,
throwing it away. And and all you had to do was put a 50-cent O-ring in there. So I mean, it's crazy on that stuff. And with that, going to my next question, with understanding the truck now a lot better, with understanding the parts, like you said, with the details and the numbers and stuff like that, your mindset's completely different now, right?
Oh yeah. It's definitely it's a more technical aspect, and there's numbers today. I'm sitting here 7 years working with Dan, or going on 7 years. Those technical numbers are now in the back of my head, as far as the cut lengths and the tubing, and watching a 5-inch piece of billet aluminum come in, 12 foot long, and then like having the numbers just in my head as to, all right, this is how many parts we get out of that piece, and this is what we do with it, and then taking it over to the programming side of things with our programmers, and making sure my tolerances are right to their tolerances, to the, because we don't just race. Racing is 10% of our business anymore. 90% of it's building and manufacturing parts. So, the truck's honestly the last thing that we look at. I think we usually throw the battery chargers on it like 3 days before we got to put it back in the trailer, and try to remember what was broke from the last show. Now that's not the case right now, because we got plenty of time on our hands, unfortunately. But the technical side of the truck and the industry has totally changed for me, especially, driving the truck, because I see the cost, what we charge people for these parts, and how hard those dollars come, like the amount of time, and Dan's the most humble person you ever meet. But that man will work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, month in, month out. And it's like, and it'd be 5 o'clock and he'll just be starting on a project, and like, it's going to be a 3 hour long project. But that's just who he is.
What was it like coming to the Patrick Enterprises camp? Dan has always had some of the nicest equipment in the monster truck business. And did you, when you came in and you were starting to drive the truck, did you have to do any changes? Was he still running the cantilever style suspension at the time, or did he switch over to the typical shocks that everybody was running?
Nope, it was a typical shock setup. Because when I got the truck from Allison, it was pretty much, it was how Dan drove it. So the last cantilever truck that he had actually went to Australia. It didn't have the cantilevers on it. The cantilevers got pulled off. They're still sitting on the shelf over there. But no, it's a standard shock package. We're actually finally getting ready to replace this chassis with this downtime. That chassis was 2010, but the biggest thing to get used to in his trucks is the starter. So, and Cheech, you know the starter I'm talking about. But that's the biggest thing to get used to, because like everybody else, you get in a truck, you get in your car or whatever, you turn the key and you start it and you go. Well, I'm pushing 36 volts to my starter. You guys are pushing 24 volts to your Hemis. But I guess get a little technical here, where a standard starter engages a flywheel, it sends like a small chunk of electricity to show that Bendix out, which engages the flywheel, and then it spins it over. Well, it does all of that automatically. Our starters don't do that. Our starters have this little 3-jaw that engages on the end of the crank, and you got to bump that starter in until you feel that basically in the small of your back in the seat, and then you feel that clang, and then you can start the truck. And so that's just the hardest thing to get used to with his truck. Just going from a standard start truck to that. Now that you've done it, like it's weird to do it the other way now, but that's just the hardest part. Because if you can spin 36 volt, like our motors spin at almost 800, 900 RPM when they go to start. So at 36 volt, that thing coming out of there, it'll just clean it clean. It'll clean it clean off the starter if you do it wrong. So.
Yeah,
but,
and I know a lot of times what we do is we always crank the starter beforehand, so that makes it easier for the start. I mean, I found out later on during like Monster Jam how frustrating we get, because Monster Jam keeps going, all right, gotta start, gotta test, gotta test, and we have to keep on starting it. I mean, I agree. It's like now it's a protocol now for me. It's like bump, go. You know what I mean? And I mean, the bright side is where the starter's at. Instead of 30 minutes, like on a Chevy block, it's on these Hemis.
It's so much easier.
Take the nice boom, boom.
Yeah.
They're so expensive.
Yeah, they are. You know, you get a $600-700 starter for Chevrolet. I mean, ours are 24 or 3,000. You know, so
What?
yeah, it's the 3 starters I'm using though, just to give you some lineage on them. They're aircraft starters, is what they are, and it's all old drag stuff. Like when you start getting into the history of stuff, and that's the thing that Dan's great about. It's all like, this guy was so smart that he took this off an Allison aircraft plane because he knew that these 3 things would line up with those 4 things, and then they use that, and it's that's where all this stuff comes from. But no, my starter, I think the earliest starter that I got over there is like a 1990 something. So they last forever. I've actually I killed one when I was over there in Europe. I don't think Dan was very happy with me about that. Nothing I did. The keyway broke. The thing's 47 years old. Like, what do you want me to
do? So you guys should be able to answer this for me, because, you know, the Hemis have a way different sound than, like, you know, a Chevy block or a Ford block. They rev, it seems quite a bit lower. Why is that? Because that's one thing that I've always kind of wondered.
Well, the biggest thing that I always tell everybody is a Chevrolet was designed to get you down the interstate. A Hemi was designed to get you down the racetrack. So just the whole thought process. Now, don't get me wrong. There's Pontiac motors and there's guys out there with big turbo cars and stuff like that once you start talking about that big dumb stuff, like the 700-inch mountain motors and things like that, there's other platforms that will make more power. Don't get me wrong. Totally understand that. But there's nothing out there that you can work on as easily and quickly as a Hemi. It was brought up from the ground up to be a race motor, to be able to work on the geometry of it. Now, the cam package that, like, Cheech, you guys run over there at your Dodge camp, I mean, you guys have got you guys are turning your motors a little bit harder than I am. But I also don't have to work on my motor as much as you guys do. So,
yeah. But I mean, that's a Tim thing, though. Tim likes working on the Hemis. You know,
yeah.
Like Tim always tells me, Rick, if a Hemi wasn't that important, you would see Chevys in NHRA.
Yeah.
You know, that's
exactly
what he
it.
says, because
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a few comments that you know the guys throw around the shop that we probably can't talk about on camera here, but the differences between
Yeah.
Fords and Chevrolets and Hemis. But anyway, no,
Yeah.
the Hemi is just like I said, it's just a ground up race engine. They've got a lot lower grunt as far as when the RPMs and the horsepower, when the peak horsepower and torque come in my motor is like right around 6,000 RPM. So I don't have to wing the thing as high as everybody else does to get the numbers. So that's the biggest, one of our bigger things is with the Hemi is there's just so much more low end power, and it's always where you need it, you know, because we don't run our motors at 9,000, 10,000 RPM. You know, a big freestyle out there and you're zinging the motor for a sweet donut, you might be turning at 6,500 RPM, 7,000. So where the Chevrolets are making power up in that higher power band, just don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking a Chevrolet. Loved working on them at Feld. You know, the guys that got Chevrolets, the big chief heads and all the stuff like that, they're making good power too. But again, they're working on it a lot more than I am.
Yeah, and also one thing I always thought about the Hemis is the longevity of the blocks.
Yep.
Tim was telling me that, you know, when they got their blocks from '02, they still have the original 4 blocks from Brad Anderson back in 2002, and they're still working on it. I think earlier in a podcast that Dan was talking about, you have a block that was like clear back from 1980 something,
Yep.
and there's another
Yep.
one from '94.
Yep.
So
That was the 2 blocks.
They're good too.
Oh yeah, that's it, and it's just taking care of stuff. I mean, they're more temperamental. Don't get me wrong; they love their heat. They don't like to be fired up cold, that kind of stuff. But yeah, now one of the before our Keith Black stuff, yeah, it was a mid '80s block and a mid '90s block was the newest stuff we had, and then he upgraded our program in 2016 or 2017. We went to 2 brand new Brad blocks and some other stuff.
So I'll ask you guys this then. So, you know, with the Hemis making reliable power, and you know most of the engines, because you guys being, you know, crew chiefs, you worked on trucks, and this is just stuff I like to ask if when I have, you know, very similar people on. So why don't you guys think a turbo combination would work in monster trucks? Would it be the turbo lag, reliability? Because in my head I always think that'd be a turbo monster truck. You know, because the turbo anti-lag popping banging sounds is so cool. Why do you think it might not work?
The biggest thing is it's the unpredictability of the track. So your throttle response with a turbo. Now I'm not a turbo guy, so I don't know. There might be things out there where it stays spooled up and you have instant boost. I don't know if there's a compound system out there like that. I'm sure that there is. Everything that I've seen though, as far as a drivability, other than a straight line, just hold it flat to the floor and see what happens type of application, drag racing in particular, they're always throwing some kind of supercharger on it. And you watch the Diesel Brothers truck, which again, it's a diesel, so it's a different application. But you watch the drivability of it. So their thought process is 3 to 4 seconds before my thought process is. So when I need to hit a jump, I know where I need to be in my throttle, and it's not like I'm in there going 1, 2, 3, push the throttle. You know, it's just a back of your head kind of thought process. But like when you watch Colt and you watch Heavy D and you watch those guys drive that diesel truck, if you watch the in-cab footage of it, when they want to make the same jump that I'm making, their thought has to be so much more before the jump than mine does because of that turbo. And it is the lag. I don't know longevity-wise. I would think that other than trying to hang an intercooler on it and trying to keep things cool, because I know they were having a lot of heating problems with that diesel truck. Again, diesel, not the same scenario, but it's the only thing I really have to relate to. That the turbo process is just the lag and the drivability of the turbo on the track, I think, is what's holding it back. Now, I think on a big long racetrack, I think it'd be great, but that's my 2 cents, I guess.
Also, talk about the Hemis one more time beforehand. Was it working on them compared to, CVH's truck had the radiator system. I think
Yep.
your truck and the same truck that I work on are dry blocks.
Yep.
Uh, was that a little like a learning experience for you also about that?
Yeah, I mean the whole package is a learning experience. Just it's all minute changes as far as you think about it, but it's small little things. So it just changes your checklist as a crew chief to where, all right, well I need to make sure that my 12-volt oil pump that cycles my oil from my oil pan is working versus need to make sure my water pump's working. And then watching your temperatures, obviously there's no water gauge in the truck. So relearning when kind of the no-go situation is on the gauge, so when I hit 240 degrees of oil temperature, like my run's pretty much done. Like that's time to bring it back to the pits. Because after 240, she climbs pretty quick. But it was just changing that mindset, and me not driving a failed truck. I didn't know as far as in the cab what it looked like as far as what the numbers were. So, having Dan to train me on all of that type of stuff was a steep learning curve. Don't get me wrong.
So I'm looking if we have any
Speaking
questions.
Well, you're
here.
asking questions there, Brad.
Yeah,
Right.
I saw one.
I was ask.
Go ahead, Cheech.
All right,
I'll
while you're
ask
doing
it
that,
after.
I'm gonna ask him one. Okay, I was talking about getting into the Samson truck because that gotta be. I mean, you drive, you move around Carl's truck and stuff like that, but your first racing truck is a mean machine.
Yeah.
Let's just say
Yeah.
a really mean machine. So, was let's if open up a book here, but was there like a process that Dan went through with you on the Samson truck, or is it basically saying I'll help you out for a little bit, but at the show it's all you?
Yeah. He said pretty much, here's your fire suit, your helmet, get in and see what happens. So, no, it was, now we did, it was Xenia, 2016, I think, 2015. And it was pretty much how it went. I was sweating bullets. I mean, I did some testing with CVH. I drove Bruce and Jamie's truck when I was 11 years old, and I drove it again when I was 16. So I've always been around racing. I've always been the guy that's been like right there. I was never the guy in the seat, but I was always the guy helping. I was always the guy moving. I was always the guy, I was always mechanical. You put me in something, I can move it, I can do whatever, but I was never the guy. Until Dan gave me my shot. And I think my first legit race pass in his truck, like, yeah, I don't think the seat color was the same after I started to finish, but but it was so easy for me as a crew chief of a guy that, again, didn't drive, to nitpick and go, well, why didn't you hit this? And why didn't you do this? And why didn't you do that? And then after I drove, it's like, well, now I get it. It's not like you're sitting in there twiddling your thumbs waiting for something cool to happen. It's a totally different animal. And honestly, I don't feel like I was even a decent driver until last year. And I feel like that was my growing period. And it was, for one, you have to be comfortable enough to get in Dan Patrick's truck. For two, you got to be comfortable enough to break parts in Dan Patrick's truck. So, yes, we make parts, but if you've ever met Dan, talked to Dan, he's a little intimidating. But so that was the hardest learning curve for me. Was with Dan. So Dan is the ultimate guy that can go out and do something. He can weld, he can fabricate, he can machine, he can race, and I bet you put him in a truck right now, he'll beat 90% of the fleet of drivers out there. But he's not a very good teacher. He's the guy that tells you what not to do, not how to do it. So learning that way was very interesting for me. I've always had people that were able to talk you through a situation, like, all right, well, when you're welding, you want to make your weld pass look like this. Well, it'd be like telling you, well, you don't want to use a stick welder on a TIG welding pass. Like, okay, helpful. I guess I'll figure it out. So, but yeah, that's been the hardest part for me as far as is jumping in Samson for one, knowing its legacy as far as what Dan's done with the truck, his racing, his ability to, like I said, I mean, that man can race like not many people I've ever seen. There's a small tiered group of people that I'd put him with, and it's impressive to say the least. So to get back in that truck and to now be able to run the truck at the level that I think it needs to be ran at again, I feel like I'm finally close to it. Nowhere near it, and you never will be. You can never touch icon legends. You can never mess with those guys. They're in their own class. They got their own little bubble and stuff. But I feel like I'm actually competitive now, and I don't have a problem doing things that I have to do with the truck anymore.
I can just imagine that first pass. It's like, how much air did I get? You only got a foot.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't get off the ground. So actually, if you guys can see in my background, I don't know if he's back there or not, but see the guy mowing? Yeah, that's Dan. So that's Dan.
He's just going away. So like, how is it like, how is the shop? Because a lot of people there, they did a lot of the open houses, like, and a lot of like the old memorabilia. Is that cool for you to like walk in there and look at the history that Dan has had from the pulling from the Warlord to everything that he's done? Was that something that was really cool to walk into when you saw it for the first time?
It's definitely it's a very neat experience. It's basically it's a museum, and it's what he's always wanted it to be. He always said when he was done racing that he would just turn the whole shop into a museum, hang stuff on the walls, which he's done. But there's I think it's 1,200 foot or 1,400 foot square foot showroom, and it's got memorabilia from all walks of life of monster trucks pulling. And it showcases and highlights a lot of people in the industry. Probably a lot of people in the industry that don't even know that they're in that room. But Dan has a major respect for people that put in work. It doesn't matter who you are. Dan's not one that came from wealth. He's built everything that he's got, and there's a lot of guys like that in this industry, and those type of people always respect you more, no matter what you're doing. How you're doing it is trying, and so, like I said, the people that are in that museum is the cooler part to me, because it's the people like that you would respect, the people that built themselves, people that have done things that are industry great. And then you throw Dan's presentation, you mentioned that he's always had the nicest and cleanest stuff, and he has, and like I said, it's the 12 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week mentality is why his stuff's always so nice. It's, there's no fault there. But walking, I guess I'm just rambling at this point, but the showroom, it's just a culmination of a lot of years of hard work and hard work paying off. So to see it all put together is neat.
Got any questions there for you, Brad? Because I know you were asked that before I asked about the.
There was one here. One of our fans asked, how different a view was it from Samson to driving Tiger Shark? Like the body differences.
Oh, view-wise, actually I could see easier at Tiger Shark. So the hood slopes off real quick, and then you got the big open wheel wells where the teeth are. It was actually a lot easier to see at Tiger Shark. I was expecting it to be a pain, but it was definitely weird after driving the truck for 3-4 years, whatever I've been driving at this point, to not look out and see two big giant arms out the hood. So that was the biggest change, because honestly, you can almost use those things as kind of guide rails when you're going towards things, but not having that was definitely a change.
Well, let's talk about you had Tiger Shark, and just recently I'm gonna bring up two names. You had Donald Uppendino with the Titan Group as your crew chief for Tiger Shark, and then you were doing your Outlaw Drags. You had Cody with you. How awesome was that?
That's honestly the greatest thing about this industry is the people that you never would have thought you'd ever meet in your life, you meet. And those two are like brothers to me, and to be able to, through this industry, bring us together, for a weekend, or with Donald, it was 2 weeks in a different country. I think I legitimately, my phone call with Donald was, I said, hey, do you want to go to Europe for 2 weeks with me with monster trucks? Yep. And that was his response. And we booked his tickets and he was on his way. And same thing with Cody, we called him kind of on a whim, like not thinking like, well, now he's got a different job and he's doing other stuff. And like, hey man, you want to come up here? We're gonna do this filming stuff. Yeah, man, I'll book a ticket. I'll be there. And it's just, to be able to have that connection and friendship, Cody in Florida, Donald in California, and us sitting here in the middle of Ohio, that's the part about this industry that I love, and being able to pull people that you want to be around you.
And now, Cody was your crew chief. Now you're going to be competing against him at the 4-wheel off-road jamboree. Talk about the jamboree, because Samson and that kind of series have been a part of each other for so many years, and like with the Penda series back in the 90s. Talk about this upcoming season, because you're not going to have any Bigfoot trucks. You got to go up against those pesky Dodge trucks, the big Hemis, and
Yep.
the short little crew chief. talk about and this year's gonna be different too, because USAC is gonna be doing a lot of the events, and Joey Sylvester is gonna be doing some of the tracks. Talk about all the different changes this year and the excitement level that you have for this year.
Oh, the jamborees are always something you've always looked forward to, and as somebody that's loved the industry for as long as I have, you always heard about the jamborees. The jamborees were things you wanted to go to, big bad racing and cool tracks and something different, and here as of late, they tapered off a little bit. And it feels like this year they're trying to bring some new things into them and get that blood back. Everybody loves trucks, whether it's a show truck, a slammed truck, it's not my thing, but some guys' things. You want to hang out with your like-minded people. You want to see those things, you want to be around those things. And now throwing in the mud trucks and the other events that they're throwing in, and throwing it in at the level that they're throwing it in, I think it'll be a great thing. I'm looking forward to it. I love racing. I'm starting to get a little bit of a hang of freestyle. I'm getting more of a bug for freestyle, but racing's my thing. Trying to put that truck on the podium every time we come out of the trailer is what we're there for. And the same thing with the Hall brothers. I mean, they're there to win races, and the freestyle is a side act to us. It really is. I love it. I have a good time with it. But if I can make it rounds and put you on the trailer, like, that's what I want to do. That's what I'm there for. So, and I feel like the jamborees are the perfect display case for that, because it's bigger tracks, it's more risky, and it's more fun. And at the end of the day, the stage is a little bit bigger, so when you win that one, it feels better. So I guess that's my. Go ahead.
Oh, my bad. I was about to say also the history of Lima and Bloomsburg and Indy, and
yeah,
and you basically driving, the tracks that you saw when you were a kid on TNN, and like you said, you're bringing back. We all agree they kind of tapered off just a tad bit with some of their stuff they were doing, but they're going back and they're starting a fresh slate. The lineup, it's pretty crazy. Like you said, with the the Hall brothers are going to be there, and then like what Brad said, no Bigfoot, but you're going to have John Gordon and Bad Company. You're also going to have Cody with Fast Metal, and then you have Joey with Bad Habit. How do you feel about the lineup in the shows that you're going to be in with them? Is there anyone particular that you want to line up against, or that's one of the frequent questions we always ask the drivers. You normally get the I like to race everyone, so we can fast forward that question.
I'm looking forward to it. For one, I mean, the competition looks like fun. John Gordon, me and that guy, I love that guy. I think we talk once a week randomly. I think he's either messing up a skid steer or building a skid, like a side by side, or doing something. Every time I talk to him, like hey man, I gotta go get some tractor parts. Like, okay, all right. So, it's a random Wednesday. We're just checking in with each other. But no, we always want to do shows together. It's like, hey man, did you get this show? No. dang it, man, we'll get to race each other one of these days. So I think it'd be fun, him and I lining up together there. Cody, again, my buddy, my brother. Yeah, just, he's a hell of a driver. So if I get to drive around him, that'd be fun too. So, and then same thing with Joey, kind of link it in the Fight TV thing. You guys will see some of that anyway on Monday there. But no, all of those guys are stat competitors. They're fun. And at the end of the day, we want to race each other because it's fun. We don't want to race each other because I don't like the guy. I don't want to race the guy because, well, so-and-so bought him this or so-and-so bought him that, and all the typical kind of sideline drama you hear. We're good friends. We want to go race each other. We get to do a really cool job and just have fun with it.
So speaking of, the jamborees and like going like old school, what was your kind of favorite era of monster trucks? Mine, I always mention, is the 1990s. That's when I grew up in the Penda series on TNN, Gary Lee, Army Armstrong, Trucks and Tractor Power.
Yep.
What era did you kind of grow up watching, and what were some of your favorite kind of moments?
I mean, definitely your straight line drags, your Pro MT stuff. MLMT was, it was a shot in the arm the industry needed, and unfortunately, it wasn't able to stick around. I got to be on the kind of ground floor with MLMT doing the first event there in Charlotte, and with CVH and Zimmer, and I love that series because of the technical tracks, and then of course Truck and Tractor Power. I mean, your Penda, your Pro MT, every straight line drag course, where you can watch a cantilever truck with 36 to 40 inches of shock travel never leave the ground off of 2 jumps. And just putting 2,000 horsepower to the ground, because every one of them guys was cheating on what they were telling you about what their motor was doing.
I think especially Fred Schaefer and Barefoot.
Oh yeah, I mean every one of them guys. But and it's like Gary says over at the shop. He says you read what the rule book says, and then you read what the rule book doesn't say, and then you build your truck. So, and it's that kind of competition that I feel like this industry needs again. They just, people want to race each other. You want to be the better guy or the better girl. You want to beat the guy to the other end of the line. But and watching where monster trucks was then and how technologically advanced those trucks were for what they were doing. Don't get me wrong. I don't feel like those trucks would be competitive in a freestyle. Because of they were designed to go straight and fast. They weren't designed to turn. They weren't designed to do anything else. They were designed to beat the other guy at 300 feet. But watching how serious and how involved a lot of people were about monster trucks then versus, what we're at now with more of the carnage side of trucks. I'd like to see our industry shift back that way to where you have the more legitimate racing series and things like that, more points based and fun. But that's just me.
We're gonna go a little direction here, and just recently at the open house, J Concepts debuted the Samson or the 05 Chevy body, but also the Samson edition RC body, and when you first took a look at that stuff, look at that body, what were you thinking about seeing a 10th scale version of soon to be your truck?
It was awesome. Anytime you get something that you've worked on or been a part of made into a toy, a truck, a body, anything, it's always humbling. It's somebody's going to put their time, energy, and effort into recreating something that you've built or been a part of is always cool. And the level that J Concepts was able to bring to that, I think it's awesome. And I was more than happy and glad and happy to have them again at our open house this year. We just, their level of detail in that was very interesting to me and rewarding to see.
So, we talked about, the 90s stuff. So let's say, you're able to hop in a time machine in Samson and go back to, a year. Who would you line up against? And what would be the reason? Would you want to race against Dan or what who would you like to line up against from back in the day?
I definitely would like to race Dan. You know, I'd have to be a Dan's truck, you know, a carbon copy twin of his truck, because I know the things that he's told me that has happened. So, but no, I mean, definitely an Andy Brass or Dan Runte, you know, any one of those guys. Just as far as the staples, you know, a Gary Porter, just any one of those guys, you know, to be able to line up against them, to have that fun with the trucks, you know. I mean, it was legit racing. I mean, you know, had a Hemi with a 4-pod Lenko in it, and you just brought it up on the handbrake and dumped the freaking clutch and hold on tight at 9,000 RPM when you left the line. I mean, who doesn't want to do that in a monster truck? But you know, when he tells me that he could handbrake the truck and hold the truck at 8,600 RPM and punch the first 2 pods in the Lenko and the front tires and never touch the ground until the end of the race, like, yeah, that would be ultimate awesome.
I thought it'd be a pretty cool race to see you against his CVH and like T-Max and on Charlotte's MLMT track. I think that'd be a pretty cool race between CVH with the Sun Impact trucks.
Yeah, between Zimmer and CVH. I mean, I respect those guys. Those guys gave me half my childhood, you know. I mean, those guys brought me up and probably made me the cynical person that I am today. But you know, no, those guys were, you know, basically idols to me, you know, and Carl taught me a lot about detail, you know, showing up early, staying late, you know, being the guy that everybody can count on. That's just who these guys are in this industry. You know, I'm not saying all of them, don't get me wrong, but the core group of monster trucks is just the guys that are going to stop on the highway to help you with your flat tire. That's this group of people. It's, you know, I guess I don't know how else to put that, but
it would take the shirt off their back to help other people out.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheech, you got your pen and paper handy?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So with Crush This, since day one, we've always had, you know, a specific set of questions that we like to ask our guests, you know, ever since, you know, our very first episode with Joey Sylvester over 5 years ago. And some of them are unique. Yeah. Some of them are unique, and some of them, you know, have to deal with the grudge that me and Cheech have against 2 other brothers in the industry. You know, I consider Cheech kind of like my brother from another mother. So we'll ask you question number 1. What is your favorite kind of pie?
Pecan.
Pecan.
Haha! Hey, I picked that one too. So we got that. That's officially 4th. I know that for a fact because it goes apple, pumpkin, peanut butter, chocolate. We had 3 guests in a row pick peanut butter, chocolate, and pecan pie is me and you.
Sweet.
Is it pecan or pecan? Do you guys do you guys hate it when someone's like pecan or pecan, or do you guys don't?
I don't.
Yeah, I just say I want that pie.
Yeah.
Okay. So this next question has to deal with the Norman brothers, Philip and Christian.
The sisters. They're sisters, not brothers. They're sisters.
This rivalry has been going on for at least 3-4 years now. With all of us. Yeah.
You're good.
So, are you a fan of eggnog, or do you despise the stuff?
I guess it's all right.
Okay, that's one for the Norman brothers.
Dang it.
That's one for the Norman brothers.
It's okay. Well, we still up by 1. It's 26-25, so.
We're still up. Cheech, do you have any of the typical questions?
My noggin's right here. I mean, just information-wise. Did you ever had a, we always, I'm going to take Brad's question here, but did you ever had a pucker moment? Something that was like, oh, geez, this is going to not be cool.
Yeah, I've had several, unfortunately. Usually it's seeing a lot more dirt through the windshield of the truck than I want to. There's actually a moment last week that I had. Tripped up something, and it's probably my closest one to seeing all of the dirt through the front windshield. So
that one was like sky dirt.
It could have been sky dirt. Luckily it was just dirt then sky, and then it leveled back off. But yeah, no, it could have been really bad. So
So
How about that?
I want to ask this. Cheech always asks this one, but I'll ask this one. I don't know if you were able to a chance to meet Ron Bachmann, aka Lurch. I don't know if you ever had the chance. But he was an icon of the sport. Did you see any much videos about him? Did you what did you know about him, and if there was an impact on your life that he had? Was there any?
What I knew of him was from Dan, and the stories that he would tell, and the shop stories when he was working there, and the things throughout the industry. And there was several moments in the history where things were tense, and he walked away, and basically there was a company that was a sponsor at the time, and so basically you need to get him back because otherwise we don't want to deal with you. And that always rang true to my head, that an individual can bring so much to an organization from a standpoint of a sponsor that they only want to deal with that person. And I feel like our life is a culmination of our interchanges or our expressions to other people and how we express that. And to me, that had to be just giant, for a sponsor to say, like, we can't deal with your company without this man. So I feel like that spoke volumes about who he was as a person.
Yeah, and we always try to go with that because I when I was at the Toughest tour, and he helped Christian out, and he always talked about pretzels, and we had to stop by every single venue to pick up some pretzels for okay. We know we know that he likes pretzels, and he knows there's arenas that have pretzels, but he somehow talks his way in the situation where believing there isn't pretzels, so you have to go find it. And he knows dang well there is, but you have to go ahead and find it and buy it for him and then give it to him. And
Right.
he's like, man, you're the best. Tim always told me this one story of they went to a Waffle House, and sometimes the cash register says paychecks here, and Lurch goes over and says, I need my paycheck, and the lady's like, what are you talking about? It says the sign says paychecks here. And I always laugh at that joke because,
Yeah. Yep. That'd be a good one.
I always thought that was. I always thought that was
the
pretty
cash
cool.
register lady was just mad, and everybody else in the room's laughing.
But is there any more questions for right now on?
We got
site,
a comment from one of your upcoming competitors, Mr. Cody Saucier. He says, Rick was there when I drove for the very first time in the field. We've come a long ways in life. Proud of you, bud.
Yeah, we were, me and that guy were roommates. And it's a funny story I always tell about Cody. And so in the house, it was Ryan Anderson, myself, Cody, and Cole Bernard. We lived together for, I think, a year, a little over that. So, I don't know, probably every other Tuesday there was a party going on that we didn't even know was supposed to be happening. But it was always the funniest thing because everybody else would be passed out, had a good party the night before. And it would be 8:15 in the morning. Cody's in the kitchen cleaning, making coffee, cooking. Like, what are you doing? Everybody else is asleep, knocked out, it's just one of my favorite memories. And he's like, hey, you want some coffee? Like, yeah, I do. I'll help you clean.
Well, now it'd be, hey, you want some high octane coffee?
Yeah, exactly. But no,
I want to ask, because we normally do rental car stories, but I don't think you might. Do you have any rental car stories? Any kind of shenanigans?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Oh boy, let's hear it.
Well, there's always saran wrap. I remember CVH doing a burnout on a speed bump in I think it was like a Chevy Cruze, because they were really big there for a little while. But yeah, he held the e-brake on the speed bump and he smoked out the entire hotel. That one was pretty good. I remember Brandon Vincent and Ryan. Brandon Vincent was Ryan's crew chief at the time, and Ryan was trying to be all cool and do a drift coming up a parking lot or whatever. Well, he didn't know Brandon also had his hand on the e-brake, and he held the e-brake longer than he needed to. So here we are in the middle of an intersection. It's like a divided 4-lane highway, and he's held the e-brake so long that the car's pointed towards the median. Ryan's just pissed.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so there's a few more, but I'm sure that there's a rental car bill looking for somebody. So
Yeah. They always. I guess we've been finding out this saying in the rental car world is "don't get blacklisted," and it sounds like a lot of people in the monster truck world have been blacklisted.
yeah. Well, you get a bunch of guys that are used to racing that doesn't really just shut off. So,
what about any good
right.
Dan Patrick stories? Anything that he's told you from the past that was like kind of interesting or neat, or something that's happened with you and him?
There's honestly so many. We just call it story time with Dan anymore. That's actually what Allison dubbed it. And it's honestly, it's about everything. There's a story behind literally everything on a chassis. When he built a chassis and built a truck in 13 days. And when I say a truck, I mean like a truck, like rear end housings, 4-link bars, everything. Don't get me wrong, there was no sleep in those 13 days. But yeah, no. But you hear stories like that, and then Gary Davis, who works for Dan, has for the last 20 plus years, was in Dan's wedding. They're best friends, been best friends forever. They were building monster trucks when I was still in diapers. So they just the stories between the two of them and how fast they can figure out situations together is ridiculous. But I don't honestly like remembering his stories to just tell a story isn't one of them. It's more of embracing it and
You gotta be there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I'm sure if any point you're around Dan, you'll get a story.
Yeah, that's the same thing with Mark and Tim. You'll get a story that you mention one small detail, like not even you're having a conversation with another coworker, and you're just talking about, and you don't even realize it. Out of nowhere, Tim goes, "Oh, I remember a story that happened back in 1992, and at Macon Speedway over there in Illinois," and it's like okay,
their memory is ridiculous. Their memory of things.
Yeah.
I mean, Dan knows he knows the exit numbers to every Love's truck stop from here to California, and I mean, just his memory of the dates, and it's like, well, her name was Susan Gray, and it was Tuesday, and it was a little balmy out, it was 1987. Like, how do you know that? Like, I don't remember yesterday.
Exactly.
Like.
Yeah, exactly like Tim. I go ahead and I'm driving the rig and I'm going to somewhere, and I was like, I'm gonna stop by this Love's at exit something in the state of Missouri for the night. He says, I don't go there, the parking lot's too small. I'm like, how do you know that? Like,
right.
Then I drive by and the parking lot's really small, and I'm like, well, good thing he called that, and then if you say like, I need to go to this TA, he's like, I know that TA in Pennsylvania, you gotta reserve a spot there because they have more reserve spots than regular spots, and if you get there around that time, then you're gonna be
need more
crack creek out of a paddle. So I'm like,
right.
I'm not questioning him. I'm gonna call, reserve a spot, and back in there and just stay there. And just some of the crazy things. Like when I tell him I'm going to Wyoming, he always tells a story about how Dan Patrick and him and going to do a USA Motorsport event, and they got snowed out.
Yep.
And they always tell stories about how they always drive the cab over. So I'm begging Tim to get me a cab over, Pete, because I want a cab over, Pete. I know the ride's probably not going to be the best ride in the world, but just a cab over just makes me happy.
It'll be a cab over, so it'll be cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But I agree, man. They just know the spots left and right. They know exactly where to go, and.
Oh yeah. Well, they've been around this world once or twice more than we have, so.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that's like old racers and stuff. Yeah. But as we start to wind everything down, is there anything that you'd like to say to anybody that's watching? That's been a supporter of Dan and yourself and the Patrick crew. What would you like to say to those people?
Just thanks. I mean, I appreciate everything that any person, if giving any kind of accolades, good or bad, towards us, I mean, we appreciate it. Our feedback is everything to us, and the appreciation and buying our shirts and buying our stickers or whatever, or just dropping by on the comment section, when we post a picture, saying that looks good, or giving us that like, it does mean something to us. We're all normal people. We go to work and we all got cool jobs, and and Dan's one of the most humble people that I've ever met in my life, and it's just that the thing that I love about him, and I think that his fans see that, and the people that respect him see that, and that's what makes him in this industry what it is today. So just thank you. Like I said, comments good or bad help us. So if you guys out there are seeing something that we're doing that we don't see, and we check that inbox or whatever and say, oh man, they got a good idea, or well, that guy just doesn't really like us today. So we have that too. So
well, speaking of
any
a comment,
upcoming events that you're having?
I was just gonna put here. Speaking of a comment, there was one from Tanner Swinhart. He just goes, Richard.
Yeah, well, there's that guy. Yeah, I love Tanner. Another one of him and his brother Tyson. Those guys are also my brothers. The two guys are in my wedding. I never answer his phone call when he calls. I'm always doing something like 5 minutes, and then I see his phone call, and I go, oh yeah, well, he's probably cussing me because I didn't answer my phone again. So, and he does, and he leaves me a nasty voicemail, and it's a good time. But
I bet you it was pretty much a fun time with Tanner, you, and Squirt. I bet.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
I had my time at Feld was awesome. The people that I met, they're still my friends, my brothers, and that I wouldn't trade those years of my life for anything. The connections we made, the bonds we made, it was just the right time for all of us. We were all crossing paths at the same time in our lives, and we all needed each other through that time. And we partied and we laughed and we cried and we drank something, but
drank apple juice. You guys drink a lot of apple juice.
Drank a lot of apple juice together.
And wake up in the morning going, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, with Cody making eggs and bacon coffee. So
before one more thing.
Go ahead, Cheech.
I'm gonna interrupt you there, Brad. But I personally always like I looked up a lot of times you, Cole, Cody, Christian. Because I'm kind of trying to follow what you guys have done. You guys started from square one. You guys are all fans. You guys all went from shows, but you guys took the steps to become where you're at now. And I appreciate everything you guys have done, because there's a difference between, like, I appreciate Mark and Tim and Dan and Bob and all them, because they put the platform. And they hard work really gets to the point. Each of us have our own different direction of how we do hard work, but I try to look at you guys, because you guys went from, fans of the sport to the proper way of becoming, crew chiefs of, the way to go, and then to a seat in general. I just wanted it's a statement, no question, but I just wanted to say, thank you and stuff like that, because, I think it's pretty cool that also the bonding that you guys have, you guys kind of went all the same direction, but you guys are all friends, and I'm friends with those guys too, but I look up to you guys. I always try to learn from you guys also, because I don't know, man, it's just it's cool seeing how you guys get to where you get.
No, I get you,
so,
and
thank you.
It's the biggest thing that I see about the four of us that you mentioned there is just our pride and our love for the industry, and you have the same thing. We would do this stuff without pay if we had to. We'd find a way. It's just we love the industry so much, and we take pride in what we do. And every time that you go work on a truck, or you go clean the rig out, or you do something, like, you have that sense of pride. And you want the job that you're doing to reflect the best version of yourself, and that's what I feel like that we do. And it's not that, we're patting ourselves on the back or doing anything like that. It's just that's who we are. That's how we're wired. And we have to make it look right. If that takes till 10 o'clock at night when everybody else checks out at 5, that's just what it takes.
So this next one is comments and a question here. First question that we have, the kind of last ones, from Josh Eckel. He asked, "What's your advice to guys/gals getting into the sport?"
So starting in the sport, like it's not an easy road, guys. It's not. And honestly, I lucked out for my seat. I did. My lovely wife, Allison. Dan would probably have looked at me twice if I wasn't dating or marrying his daughter. So my path is definitely a different path than most. But back to getting into the sport, it's unfortunately that it's being the guy that keeps your bug in their ear. Like, hey, can I go crew with you this weekend? Can I go hang out with you this weekend? Go on the independent side. Obviously there's, when Feld was still running and will run again, that was a very good avenue to get your feet wet and get into the sport and make money at the same time. The independent side of things is very bleak as far as paycheck wise, because, well, as you know, a monster truck's very expensive, and to pay a crew guy something that you could technically do yourself on that, the lower end budget teams is just, it's not feasible. So going that route, getting your feet in the sport is financially hard. As far as base education getting into the sport, I went to a technical college, but I also grew up as a technical kid. I was tearing apart go-kart motors with my dad when I was young, and always just kind of worked up from there. I destroyed a perfectly good F-250 when I was 16 because I thought I knew what I was doing. I think I ended up scrapping that when I was 18. So, but it was just stuff like that. You had the ambition to take it apart and put it back together. Obviously, I didn't put that one back together correctly, but no, it's just, and it depends. The sport and the industry's changing as far as how to get into it, though. Being an influencer on social media and having those likes and those follows and all that kind of stuff, like that's an in now. Where even when I started, that wasn't really a thing. Like starting your own Facebook page and having a podcast, like everybody used to always turn off talk radio, and now we're all doing podcasts to talk to people. It's just, it's a shift in the dynamic where you're talking about the stuff you want to talk about, and this type of thing. But that's another avenue to get in the sport now, as far as being that influencer person. A team will look at you to give you a seat.
We got a comment here from Mr. Jeff Sin. He says, "What's up, Tricky Ricky?"
Hi, Jeffy.
And he
Miss
also
you, brother.
said something about a short joke.
Yes, he also says, "You look up to them because you're so short, Cheech."
Thanks, Jeff. We still have to get you on our podcast there, Jeff. We got to do audio.
He was just mad you didn't mention his name. So
I was nice enough to bring him on Cody's interview too, so he still makes fun of me.
Well, you'll have that.
So, Rick, is there any social media that fans can find you or the Patrick team at?
Yeah, we just do the Samson Monster Truck PEI page there, and then I do my Tricky Ricky 17. Not overly active on it, 2 small kids, and just kind of try to do my own thing. So I need to get more active on my Instagram and my Facebook stuff. I used to have Facebook pages and stuff like that, but I dropped them off. Like I said, you get kids and the priorities change a little bit, so it's more important to be inside at 9 o'clock than it is to be messing around Instagram, Facebook.
Oh, Jeff says he misses you.
I love you too, Jeff.
And where can fans come see you guys upcoming this summer for shows?
Yeah, so obviously they're doing the Indy and Lima Jamborees. So I think it's September 18th through the 20th for Indy, and then October 23rd to the 25th for Lima.
Yeah.
I'm, as far as I know, Jennerstown, PA, and the Buck are still happening for me. So they'll be July 25th, Jennerstown, and the Buck is August something. And then other than that, man, this whole COVID-19 stuff's got people running scared. So, you know, just I don't know. It's just a weird world.
Is
It's a
the
weird
open
thing.
house? Are you guys doing open house, or is that up in the air right now?
It's still up in the air. We're talking about it. Definitely still talking about it. If we do it, it'll be the first Saturday in October. I think we're planning on a couple more weeks, and then we're going to make that final decision. Just seeing how things kind of shake out here. But if we do it, sounds like it's going to be cool. But again, I don't know right now. So
Gotcha. How's Ohio right now with everything?
it's
What section are they in?
what do you mean as far as what's open, what's not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, our bars and our restaurants are open, like 50% capacity, something like that. Drive-through stuff still just drive-through. And it's county by county is the weird spot, So one county, like right now, my Pickaway County, the county we live in, our fair is going full boat. Grandstand events, livestock events, everything. They're not stopping one bit. Every other county around us shut down. Not doing nothing.
So, the one last thing before we go, if anybody hasn't yet purchased the Outlaw Monster Drags on Fight TV, you're part of it. If they haven't, what's one thing that you can say to them that's going to swerve them to go on Fight.tv and go purchase it? Either the one event, I believe it's $20, or the $44.99 for the 3 event bundle. What would you say to those people that haven't bit the bullet yet?
Well, my kid's dental plan is coming up, so if they could, they could help me out.
Why did I just think of The Simpsons on that? Because there's that one episode where it's like Lisa's dental plan.
No, but seriously, I mean, it's just a bunch of badass footage. It really is. I mean, Joey put together something that nobody else has right now. And I think he pulled it off great. I mean, there was a lot of technical snags and there's a lot of things that went wrong, but the footage isn't one of them. The badass straight line racing and the technical freestyle course that's out there and the trucks that threw down for the freestyle. I mean, it's definitely something you want to see.
And also, can't wait for that too. And like you said, with the jamborees too. I got myself I geeked out and spent the $44. But you know what? Get to see some entertainment.
Right.
And some people, and also we had a couple people on the chat too. Let's let them know there's other events around the country too. Go out and see those shows. But it's pretty cool to have you on. And
I appreciate you guys.
See you later
it's been
this
fun.
year.
Yeah, man. I'll see you around as we always do. We don't ever see each other.
Yep. Last time
Go
I
ahead.
saw you, we saw cars launch over the hill. It was
Yep.
Wisconsin. We did a
Yep.
show in Wisconsin. They took these
Yep.
cars. I don't know how they did it. I forget, but they launched them off cliffs.
There's a remote control in them. Yeah. And then the guy in the Razor that's following them, that you always think he's going to jump off with the car. Yeah, he's actually controlling the car. So, and it's a pretty neat deal up there at what is that? Trollhagen?
Dresser.
Yeah.
Dresser,
Wisconsin.
And then the funny thing is we're okay. So they do this memorial, Brad. They do this memorial thing early in the morning. It's a huge Jeep festival type deal, and us crew guys are eating breakfast, and we see the 4 monster trucks go by. About maybe 5 minutes later, monster trucks go by again, and they go by one more time, and we're like, "What's going on?" And I guess you guys got lost, or someone led you the wrong way.
Yeah, we didn't get lost.
Yeah.
We were told to follow this Jeep, and we were supposed to go to the main entrance of the campground and take a photo shoot. Well, this Jeep apparently didn't realize that's what we were doing, and took us down one of the off-road trails. That was full of people off-roading. So here's 4 monster trucks trying to weave down these trails with people in their Jeeps and stuff trying to enjoy themselves. And yeah, and here comes us just mowing over trees and going through.
I would love to see this because that'd be so insane. You're just traveling on your Jeep and you're just like, what in God's green earth?
Oh yeah.
Well,
yeah,
all of them were upset about it because they're all overheating. I think Brandon and Just Get Her Done was shooting like he was antifreeze
keeping
out.
water all out, and yeah, it was a good time. So yeah. It's just better that I was driving the truck instead of Dan. So
right. But still, it's a huge field. It's a big area. They sure love their monster trucks and dressers. It's sad that they had to cancel it this year, but
and unfortunately it's just where everybody's at nowadays. I mean, nobody in our industry, nobody in the world wants to be canceling these events. Nobody wants to be sitting at home on a Saturday night instead of racing, and not being able to do what we love because of something that we can't see, touch, or feel. It just sucks. And to shut our entire industry and all entertainment industry down like this, it hurts us. It hurts everybody. It hurts everything. So I think, what Joey did with this Fight TV thing, and our racing slowly coming back in the industry, I think we're in a good spot to kind of capitalize on an audience that is hungry for entertainment.
Well, all right. Well, speaking about that, Brad,
go ahead.
Do that little video.
Yeah, well, we'll play the Fight TV video here quickly. That will end her. So let me just quickly play that, and then we'll end her. So just give us a couple seconds here, guys.
Rebellious, unconventional. A new breed of monster truck competition is coming to Fight TV June 29th. The Outlaw Monster Truck Drags. Presented by High Octane Coffee. Catch Samson, Stinger, Rapid Attack, Pretty Wicked, Bad Habit, and more to battle and racing in freestyle tracks never before seen in monster truck competition. Part of a 3-show series. Who will be crowned King of the Outlaws? Download the Fight TV app today.
Woo. So there we go, guys. Outlaw Monster Truck Drags Fight TV Monday. Go check it out. I'm probably going to check it out a few days later. I don't really have the funds right now until I get paid next week to watch it. So I'm kind of going to be one of the people missing out watching it right away. But I can't wait to watch it and see how you do, Rick. And again, thank you for coming on Crush This Live and talking about the Jamboree, the Fight TV, and hopefully, even though go check out the Monster Cast guys as well. They had an interview with Dan, so go check that out. And we hope to have him on someday. That'd be really cool to talk to some old Penda stuff and building a Bigfoot 8, because that's stuff that I'd love to hear about. So,
there's a lot of good stories there. So definitely reach out to him. I'm sure he'd do it no problem. So
yeah, buddy.
Cool, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for putting this together. You guys' podcast is cool. Checking it out, watching the industry, watching what everybody else is doing in the industry, and just thank you guys for kind of getting us and talking about what we love.
No worries, man. We'll definitely have to have you on again.
Sounds good, dudes. I appreciate you guys.
All right, man. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Later. Bye.
All right, everybody. That was Rick Steffens with the Samson.
I'm interrupting him talking.
I'll do it. God help me. I'll do it. I'll do it.
I think it's like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm ready.
Wow, like late.
Yeah, that was late. No, do it again.
Okay.
Do it again.
3.
I'll even make it.
Again, guys, thank you for watching this episode of Crush This Live. Thank you to Rick Steffens for taking some time out of his evening. Cheech has got the new one. I got the OG on.
Also, it's the old T-shirt, but we do have T-shirts.
Yes.
We do have T-shirts, guys. So, Pat Roy, I do want to make a public announcement. I'm sorry for not getting a hold of you. I don't know if Brad did.
Yeah, I've been talking to him, so.
Okay, thank you. All right, give him a shout out and
Also, a shout out to Ed Beckley with CFP doing shows. Wanted to mention that. Go check what he's doing a lot of stuff in Montana and area. Yeah. So go check out what they're doing.
Wasn't trying to upset you, Ed. We're just, we are through the four-wheel drive, helping out with the four-wheel drive jamboree. They came to us to help out. And Joey, being the sponsor of High Octane Coffee, does the Flight TV. We're just verifying,
Yeah.
we're helping everyone out. If we can help you out too, no problem about that. But we show love. We're not trying to we all know that you guys had shows, live events the last couple of weeks, and it's awesome shows. Ken hosting, and then all those shows that you guys been doing. Take a look at them. The No Limit guys. Much love. We wasn't trying to insult you guys and stuff like that, but we wouldn't do that one bit for you guys. Try to hurt you guys one bit. You know what I mean? So, much love, and go check them out. They're doing shows all over the place right now, and they're going pretty well.
Yep. So again, guys, thank you definitely for coming check us out. Cheech, who do we have coming up next week, man? I haven't seen an announcement yet, but who do we have coming on?
I don't know.
Okay, so Cheech doesn't know. Okay.
No, there's this Tuesday is gonna be Dave Ramirez and XDP. He's gonna have some news. Extreme Diesel. Maybe pick your lines up with the Diesel world. And next Thursday, could be up in the air. So you'll find out for next Thursday. But Tuesday, we'll look at maybe XDP. Subject to change. But we're gonna try to get Dave Ramirez on.
Yeah, and even if we don't have a guest, I'll go live, hang out with you guys. Might do some designing.
Why you? Maybe I want to go on, huh?
Okay, maybe Cheech will do a Cheech episode. Him watching some old school videos.
We could just do an episode of just us on.
Yeah,
doesn't have to be separate.
We'll be live next week, guys. We'll be live.
We are. We're gonna be live, but I think we are going to get back and rolling with the audio, so I'm going to start booking that a little bit. We're going to get some more road trip material, we always call, but these can be road trip materials also.
Yeah, I'm going to be putting the audio of the last couple interviews that we've done here on the audio version, so you guys can listen to those while you're driving.
For audio, we could have possibly Gary Wiggins of the Mopar Magic Stonecrusher group, and it's up to you guys if you're watching this and like and subscribe. By the way, audio. If I last check, I think we're like 30 away, 30 follows, 30 likes, whatever followers, to release the Ryan Anderson episode that was done last year that we've been promising you guys. We're not lying to you. We have the episode.
It's on my computer. It's on my laptop. Yeah. I can bring it up at any point. But it's up to you guys that we release it. 3,000 followers and we will drop it. We are so close, guys. This is a huge milestone for us. We've been doing this for over 5 years now. 3,000 is a big mark for us. And it kind of coincides, 3,000. I'm turning 30 in January, so it's like kind of neat. So, but hey,
I'm 33, so it's more threes.
But hey, guys, thank you for the love and support you all show us. And go support the other podcasts. Go support Monstercast. Go support the Monster Truck Outlaws of the West podcast. Those guys are doing awesome content. It's all love for all the podcasts here. We show love to everybody. That's how we are. We were the first to do the audio stuff. Monstercast kind of kicked it off with the live stuff, and it's all love. That's how we are. We're all love and positivity for us here.
And by the way, guys, I backtrack, and I do apologize. I have all the names ready to go for the J Concepts T-shirt. I have to make a video for it, and we will get that done and ready to go. It's me brain farting. It's me dropping the ball. I'll take full responsibility of it. There will be a J Concept T-shirt renewal coming up, and I will get that done. But speaking of which, all these sponsors right here. High Octane. Joey Sylvester's been with us since day one.
It's right there. It's on your chest.
Somewhere here.
Right there. Right there. I put it in a different spot.
J Concepts. You guys did a wonderful job with all the RC Bodies, and thank you for what you guys have done with previous giveaways. Back Channel Productions, you guys do an awesome, way of showing also the monster truck world. Shout out to the Monster Blog,
Yes.
Kobe, Ross, Chris. You guys do a fantastic job also. And also, I want to give love to all the other peeps that Monster Nader TV, or guys that are trying to bring content of a monster truck world to the public, to the masses. Thank you for the love. Thank you for all that, because without the fans, showing all that stuff, we won't have any form of entertainment.
Yeah.
6B Apparel, thank you for these crew shirts. The ones that Brad has right there. That's the
OG
old school
shirt.
one. I got the new one. JB Scale Graphics. They're officially licensed by Bigfoot. They're officially licensed by Overkill Evolution. They're officially licensed by Joey Sylvester and Bad Habit. Go to them. They make awesome flags too. They make some of the the materials, and they know how to do their stuff. And Obsession too. I think they're also
Obsessed
the
Wear.
official license. But they're also, I think JB Scale is also the official license for Obsession truck too.
Also, Obsessed Wear, go check those guys out. Dan, the shirt Cheech is wearing, they supplied for us, so go check those guys out. They're also on that version of the shirt.
And, I also want to say thank you again for Rick and Eric. Rick spent his free time making us some giveaway shirts and some shirts to spend on, and much love. They're still here in my apartment, but if you want a medium to small, but still, thank you for all the people that have been helping us out. Thank you again. Thank you for your fans once again. 3,000 followers, and you get the chance to listen to Ryan Anderson.
You get
that episode going down.
You get a Cheech episode with Ryan Anderson. I wasn't even there for that one, which kind of bummed me out. But my schedule at my old job kind of sucked.
Yeah, I was about to say your schedule was all over the place.
Yeah,
I didn't know which one.
Now my schedule is consistent. Every single day is the same. I love it. So, alrighty, guys. Thank you so much again for joining us for Crush This Live. On Tuesday, it is Dave Ramirez. Next Thursday, I'm not sure who's going to be on yet. It might just be me and Cheech hanging out with y'all. We might do a watch along. So, me and Cheech will react. You guys will have to put whatever video is going to be on your screen, because I can't really share it on here because the little lag. But we might do a watch along next week. We might find a video to watch. I actually just watched Monster Trucks 2000 again this past week, and that video always irritates me.
But once again, guys, thank you. Thank you for the love and support. But like the high octane coffee that's on my forehead.
The J Concepts that is right there.
Much love, guys. Thank you, and hopefully, if any fans of the Crush This page, go ahead and say hi to me at the jamborees. I'll be around, or dealerships, or when Brad's at a show somewhere in Canada. Show some love and say, hey, what's up?
Yep.
So,
the only show that I have planned, if it doesn't get canceled, is Monster Truck Throwdown in Edmonton. So that's the only show that possibly I'll be attending. If not, it breaks my streak. But we'll see what happens with COVID. Dan, any social media fans can follow you on just quickly?
Dan Agosh 10 on if you guys want to follow me on Snapchat. No, I mean it's really boring. It's just old monster truck footage.
Or him grilling.
Stuff, or grilling. I love it. Barbecue chicken on point. Also, Dan Cheech Agosh on Instagram. Follow me there. Also, I have a RC page, Agosh RC Racing, on Instagram and on Facebook. Facebook-wise, just Dan Cheech Agosh. Go show some love on that one. We're also petitioning, I guess, Brad to the Hall of Fame.
Hey, if borders are open, man, and I can get the funds for it, because it's hella expensive traveling from Canada. I'll do it, man. I need to come to the States, man. I need to meet some of y'all, because it's the only person I've met.
What you need to do is talk to John Brown from Ontario. There's like 2 or 3 guys are from Canada, but what they do is they drive down. So
Okay.
maybe it'd be cool enough for you to talk to maybe John Brown or something like that and fly to Toronto or somewhere in the east area of Canada and just ride down with them. Just bring your passport.
I could do that. I definitely need to come down
Sorry,
to the States.
John, don't get mad, but
I definitely need to come down to the States and meet some of y'all. It's way too long, and I need to get down to the States for a show because I'm, living in Canada. We don't get a lot of shows, so I'm kind of.
But I was about to let you know, Brad, that you won't be the only Canadian there. There's tons of Canadians there. I mean, I don't know the guy who owns Big Bad and Bouncy, but that's a Canadian truck, and he's there all the time. So, you got your ways.
Oh yeah, I'll hopefully be there. But again, guys, thank you for joining us. And as we always say on Crush This, is Dan. I'm gonna join Dan in this one.
We're not worthy.
We're scum. All right, guys. On that bombshell, stealing a quote from Top Gear. This has been Crush This live. Keep the rubber set down and the shiny set up, peeps. Deuces.